Now, 28 is another proposition that we're going to see on the ballot. And that has to do with arts and music in schools. So specifically how it is now, there's no, like, the general fund for California must allocate about 40% of its general fund to finance public schools. But this proposition would carve out specifically 1% of the state's total general fund budget for the additional arts funding for public K through 12 schools. So right now we don't have that carve out, and this proposition, if you're voting yes on it, would ensure that 1% of the state's total general fund would go towards arts and music education in K through 12 schools. We also have Proposition 29, which you've also probably have been wondering, why is this on the ballot again, just because we've seen it so often in recent years. So right now, kidney dialysis patients receive care at clinics where a physician or a nurse practitioner or a physician's assistant does not need to be present. If you're voting yes on this proposition, you're voting to require this a physician NP or PA on site. And it also would prohibit clinics from discriminating against patients who have public, basically you cannot discriminate against patients based on their insurance provider. So if they have public or private insurance, you would treat those patients all equitably. And then we have Proposition 30. This has to do with electric vehicles. They are called ZEVs, so zero emission vehicles. So this would levy a new tax of 1.75% on income for those who make more than $2 million annually. So this 1.75% tax would be used for 35% of it would be construction of these electrical vehicle charging stations. 45% would help payments for household to be able to afford electric vehicles. Would allow households, businesses, and the government. And then also 20% would go towards wildfire response and prevention. So if you're voting yes on this proposition, you're voting towards levying this new tax for those who make over $2 million a year.
Cool.
And then, one more, 31 is our referendum. So a lot of folks have asked us, why is this on the ballot? I thought we voted on this in 2020 by voting for SB 793. And you are right, you did vote on that, but it has not gone into effect because there is a petition for a referendum on the law qualified for this ballot. When this happens, the law does not actually go into effect until voted on by us. So the proposition, if you're voting for Prop 31, it just means that you would like this referendum to, in fact, go into effect as law. And this is the one, I'm sorry, I should mention, on banning flavored tobacco. So if you're voting yes, you agree that there should be a ban on flavored tobacco. And so, yeah, in a nutshell, those are the propositions that you are going to see at the state level on your ballots.
Very good, Nash. So were you all following with your and taking notes? You know, there are, let me see if there's any questions specific to, okay. So
hey, Jana, we do have one question.
We do have, okay. So are the two major players in the for-profit dialysis units running the ads against this measure? That would be 29, correct?
So very, very good question. And I always am happy to answer questions about where the money goes and who's supporting either for or against propositions. So yes, just to give you context, I think it's about 80% of these dialysis clinics are owned by two for-profit companies, DaVita and Fresenius, and those folks are spending a good millions of dollars to vote no against this proposition.
Okay.
So I might have, let me see if I can find exactly how much money that is. I know I have it somewhere just to give you a little bit more information.
So, and then there's a follow-up question to that. I don't see the need for a PA or an MD at a dialysis center, but are clients currently discriminated against by medical insurance coverage type?
Yes. So sorry, to get back to the last point, as of 3 weeks ago, about $86 million dollars had been raised in against Proposition 29, and a bulk of that is from those two companies that I mentioned, DaVita and Fresenius. As far as why is insurance an issue, it's because these are for-profit companies, so they do have the right to take the patients that they want to take. So they don't necessarily have to take patients with public insurance.
Okay. And what does voting no on 29 mean?
So when you're voting no on 29, that means that you are voting to keep things as is and not necessarily having to have a physician, a nurse practitioner, or a physician's assistant on site at the dialysis clinic.
Great. And someone just shared a resource with us here on the chat. Check out votersedge.org or from the League of Women Voters for pros and cons info. That's fantastic. Yes, please visit that website. Let's see, Nash, well, you just helped us with our homework. You just, thank you so much. And to continue with what else is on the ballot? What else are we going to see? What other races, Quintilia?
You're gonna see everything but the kitchen sink. There is a lot in this midterms, as there usually is, for 20 in the midterm elections, there are so many things at stake. So Nash went over the propositions for the state, and that's for everybody, regardless of what county you reside in or what city you reside in. But so we all know that from the county level, everybody's going to have different people, like county board of supervisors or city council. So that will be different for everyone. But in the city of LA, we will have maybe our first female city mayor, or we will have another male mayor as we've had, but it's a big deal since LA City is such a big and powerful city. I think they even said it was California, like would be the 7th largest GDP country if it was its own country. So, and we know that the heart of California is LA City. So everybody in their local areas will probably have their city council, their mayors. That includes their attorney generals and maybe even controllers or other really high level officials. And then from more of a broader perspective, you'll also have your assembly members, your state senators and your U.S. senators, the attorney general, the insurance, the various state levels. So this is a very big deal. What I do want to say about the U.S. Senate race is that so Adriana, I saw that you pulled out your ballot. Make sure everybody sees that there's it's really long. It's probably 2 or 3 pages, right? So don't just fill out the top and then forget the bottom. Fill it all out. You have great resources from the League of Women Voters, so there's no excuse not to find out, who they are. We have some judges, and like, for example, we have the first Latina Supreme Court justice who was appointed by the governor, but now you need to confirm that as well. So on the judicial parts, you'll see some people that you'll actually vote for, person A or person B, and then there will be some other appeals of a court, for example, that you'll say should they continue on their post, and it'll be a yes or no question. But going back to the U.S. Senate part, there are 2 U.S. Senator categories. One is for current person to or competing person to complete the current term, which is from November 2022 today to January 2023. And then again, a US Senator category is for the next 6 years. So it's not a mistake that you get to see two US Senators. That has come through our hotline. It's confused some people. So it's on purpose.
Great. Thank you so much for that info. Let's see who we have here and what our plans are. Let's do a quick poll here of our participants.
I love polls. Let's do it.
Yeah, we love polls. You have 3 researchers here. Okay, so our poll, let's see, we have 2 polls actually. I voted in the last election. And no judgment here, and they're anonymous, so yes, no. And then the second question of the poll, I plan to vote in the midterm election by, and let us know either by mail, early, in person on Tuesday, election day, or I do not plan to vote. Let's see here. And Priscilla will help us with the.
Yes, we do need a couple of more responses.
Okay.
So just giving folks an opportunity to respond to the poll. We have over 70% complete.
Okay.
Okay, we'll give everyone a few more seconds. And let's see, I'm going to end the poll. And I'll share the results. Here they are.
Oh, wow. We have a very engaged audience today that votes. Yay. That's fantastic. 100% of the folks here have voted in the past election. And let's say about 54% are planning to, or are planning to vote by mail, and about 20% early in person, or about 25%, a quarter of the folks here are voting on election day. And that's me, actually. I like to do that. So, wow, 25%, and nobody here does not plan to vote. Thank you so much, man. That's great. Thank you for answering those questions. And let's just continue here with the conversation. Quintilia, so tell us about the Voters' Choice Act, and technically when the polls, when the vote centers opened, and what the Voters' Choice Act is all about.
Yeah, in 2016, thank you for asking that question, Adriana. In 2016, the state passed a law that it's called Voters' Choice Act, or in Spanish it's voto temprano. There's different ways to say it in Spanish, but it is really the way for the Secretary of State and other election officials to make sure that we have more ways and more days to vote. So we have 58 counties in the state of California, and most of the Southern California counties have opted into this VCA Voters' Choice Act, or I'll say VCA moving forward. So Los Angeles and Orange County and Riverside and San Diego are the ones, the Southern California counties who have opted in. And then there's some in the Central and a little bit in the Bay Area. And so what this means is that you have various options. It's to really increase voter participation. So they are opening the voting centers. So in certain places, it's called polling centers, like in San Bernardino County, but in Riverside County and LA County, they're called voting centers. So that means you can go early. For example, they started opening voting centers last week, and they have maybe some limited hours. And then this weekend, they're really expanding the voting centers and the times to make it more convenient for people who don't work or who you know can't for work reasons can go on Tuesday. Like if I had all the power, I'd make elections a holiday and even like give a tax incentive, right? That would be me. So this is a way to get more people involved, to be able to have more options to vote. And then the last thing I want to say about VCA counties is that you don't have to go to the polling place or the voting center that's close to you, like down, usually it's a library or someone's home or a school. You can go anywhere in the LA County. So if you live in Long Beach, but you're visiting family in Pomona, and then you go to, for whatever reason, church in Pacoima, anywhere in LA County, you can vote. It's whatever is convenient for you. It doesn't have to be by your home.
Great, thank you, Quintilia. There's a couple of other questions. I don't want to miss the questions on the chat here. One actually, where can I get info on the judges?
Nash, do you have that information?
I do. I think, again, votersedge.org /CA is a great resource. I'll also talk about it later on in the presentation, but you can actually, I feel like one of the few places you can actually get information about the judges. And I know it's a race that you don't really, see as advertised as maybe like a mayor or a senator. So basically the candidates actually upload their platforms and information about themselves on the site, and it's nonpartisan. So it's a great resource. And I also believe LA County, also the recorder registrar also has information on the candidates for the judges in this election.
Great. And my colleague Priscilla and your colleague Mana have dropped the information on the chat here. That's great. There's another question on the dialysis. Want to make sure I find it and
Yeah, and I have the question handy if I can be of help.
Yeah, can you read it, please?
Sure. The question was, are dialysis centers likely to shut down as the ad suggests if the proposition passes?
So my answer to that would be, we don't know yet. I mean, there is a possibility that if these types of staff are required in the centers, that because these are for-profit companies, they might decide to close some centers because of operating costs, but we don't know exactly what that fiscal impact can be, but it is definitely a possibility to consider.
Thank you for that. Let's continue here with our conversation. And, so earlier someone was talking about, I think, submitting their ballot, and how can someone track their ballot? If, yeah, Quintilia, can you answer?
Happy to talk about that. So as I mentioned before, that every county has their election administrator, that even though we're voting for state or federal or state propositions, state or federal candidates, each county is administering their own elections. So 2 ways to track your ballot. One is, and I'll drop it in the chat, or if someone else has it, feel free to do so. The state has a website where you just enter like 4 pieces of information, like your name, phone number, zip code, etc. And you'll get a text message saying, hey, we've received it. Hey, we processed it. Hey, it's been counted, right? So it kind of tells you where you're at. And then also, depending on your county, you can also register with them and you will get an email. And in fact, I've gotten an email saying, hey, we're about to send you your ballot. And so it's really good interaction if you have that capability to do so. And I want to really highlight that in the state, they provide this information in I think it's 7 or 10 languages. So, English, Spanish, Khmer, Vietnamese, Chinese, Hindu, and I'm sure I'm missing one, so anybody can be able to register really easily and track their ballot.
That's great. Well, I love that our participants today are super engaged. That's awesome. And there's a question actually very specific to props 26 and 27. and how they may affect Native American tribes. Nash?
Yeah, so that's a great question that we get a lot. So one caveat I wanted to say is that not all tribes are gaming tribes. So we might see, I know, especially here in the LA area, we see Pechanga, we see Morongo, you might see ads on TV for those casinos, but not all tribes are gaming tribes. So if 26th is passed, then obviously that will be beneficial to the gaming tribes because they would have more games that could be more gambling to go on in the casinos. But for 27, if online gambling is passed in the state of California, then that would also have an effect on the gaming tribes, whereas I guess the market would be open to others, other outside of the gaming tribes. So you could see how both of them have different fiscal impacts. But again, for the non-gaming tribes, it's also, there's a concern for equitable treatment. So the idea that the gaming tribes right now might benefit more financially if certain propositions are passed, and the non-gaming tribes might, it might not be as equitable for them, if that makes sense.
Great, thank you, Nash. And again, go to the chat. We're dropping all the resources there for you. There's one on, will you discuss measures ULA and SP? I must say, I will turn to you, Nash, because yeah. Oh, I think we left.
No, I think you're on mute.
These propositions are or measures, I should say, are specifically for the city of Los Angeles. So I wasn't sure who exactly was tuning in, but if you want me to talk about them, I can definitely say a little bit.
For the purpose of time and to get us going, that's a very good. Can we direct this person to?
Yes, what I will do, how about this? I'll put some information in the chat of where Shelley can find some more information on these measures.
Fantastic. Thank you. We do have a broader audience. I think we have folks from all over the state. And so that's fantastic. Let's keep going here. A question that we get asked a lot, Quintilia, is presenting an ID to vote. Can you answer that question?
Happy to answer that question. In California, we're quite we're quite lucky that generally speaking, you do not need to present an ID when you vote. The reason you may be asked is because perhaps you've changed your name or an address or something, you're not on the voter rolls or something has come up, right? So they may give you a provisional ballot at that time. And if because of a provisional ballot, they will ask you for your ID. But generally speaking, you do not need an ID to vote.
Great. You heard it here from the expert. Thank you so much. That we always, folks have asked that question.
Yep.
A lot. So we have another question here from the chat. Does one vote on everything on the ballot regardless of your district?
I'm not sure what that person's asking, but I would imagine they're saying like if I live in Corona and Nosh lives in LA, will my ballots be the same? Mm-hmm. So yes and no. They will be the same because in some aspects you'll have propositions statewide, no matter what county you're in, you will have the propositions. You will also probably have a U.S. senator, anything that's statewide, everybody will have. But if you may also have additional ones, as she was just mentioning, LA City proper, then depending on the city and or county, you may have other not only candidates, but propositions that are just relevant to your zip code.
Yeah, that's a great explanation, Quintila. Thank you so much. So I just want to pause a bit and let you all know, ARP and of course why we're engaged on the voter participation effort. In October of this year, ARP released a survey. It's called Choose the Difference. And it revealed that women voters 50 plus are motivated to vote, but they're still weighing their options. So lots of undecided amongst this age group. And according to our poll, about 3/4 of Hispanic Latina women, voters 50 plus, have yet to decide on how they're voting on Tuesday. So Latinas are even more undecided. So let's, so Naj, can you speak about the motivations that women, or women's motivation and the issues that are more concerned, women are more concerned for during this election? What motivates women, and what are those issues that move us?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So obviously Proposition 1, I would say statewide, obviously will have an impact on women and people who can become pregnant. So that's one to look out for, whether or not to vote on strengthening the right to choose through our California state constitution. So that one, I would say off the bat, is going to probably has the most impact on specifically women. But I would argue that all of these propositions you see at statewide level, county, and also local measures affect women, right? Because we are folks that live in all of these areas, and we want to vote according to our perspective and the things that we find important. And even as Quintilia was saying about the mayor, specifically in Los Angeles, obviously we have a woman also running for that race. So I honestly believe all of these are really important to vote on, especially locally. I would say folks sometimes don't think, oh, it's a midterm, but locally, it could come down to hundreds or thousands of votes. So it's really important that we do show up at the polls.
Yes, thank you for that. And I completely agree with you. All these issues definitely impact women.
Adriana, can I add to that?
Yeah, please.
So, women usually are, whether they have a spouse or a partner, whether they're single heads of households, they make decisions. They make where we're going to get the groceries, where the kids are going to go to school, vacations, healthcare. A lot of all this falls on women. So it's really important that women go out there and really make their voice heard about what they want to happen in their community. And in particular, Latinas, we are about 50% of LA County and a good portion of the state. And so, we know that California is considered the golden state. Well, I will say that Latinas are the golden opportunity for this election, because we think Latinas and Latinos will be the voice and will be the voters that make a huge difference in these elections in 2022.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Quintilia. And who agrees that women are decision makers? Raise your hand if you agree. All right, fantastic. Let's continue here. We are coming to the 15-minute mark of our conversation here, but we're all involved. I mean, we're days away from, so this is what we consider the period of GOTV. Like, this is it, get out the vote efforts. And I know both your organizations, because I've seen the work you all are doing in terms of outreach. This is it. What are you both doing these final days to get out the vote? And anyone can start.
Nash is not sleeping, probably.
Neither of us are. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good point to say it's not the end yet. Folks can vote up to 8 p.m. on November 8th. So it's not too late if you haven't voted. Just don't think that. There's still a lot of work to be done before the 8th. But what we're doing is we do our pro and con presentations. Like, I did a brief version of it today, but I did one last night in the city of Los Angeles, which was great. What else are we doing? We're still tabling this weekend. Our chapter president is doing an in-person presentation for Skirball called Ballots and Bagels. So we'll have more
I
information.
love that.
Yeah. The presentation I did last night was called Ballots and Beer because we were at a brewery, but yeah, it's just we're just getting out there, speaking to people, getting them the information, and also letting them know that it is important to vote and it's not too late to vote.
Great, thank you. And you all, Quintilia? You're not sleeping either, so.
Not very much, but you know, it's a pleasure and an honor to do this work. As I mentioned, I'm a naturalized citizen, and we know that naturalized citizens tend to be more active voters. You know, so we are definitely out there, and I'm absolutely excited to be here and talk about this. I can talk about this in English. I can talk about this in Spanish. Absolutely. So we're doing a couple of things. Obviously, we have our hotline that generally operates, you know, not only during the election season, but during census or any other times, and it's year long. So we operate Monday through Friday, 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. Pacific time, and I'll put in the chat the number. But if anybody wants to know, it's 888-BEI-VOTA. You can call us, you can text us. You're wondering like, oh, well, I thought I had my ballot, but I was looking in my kitchen and I can't find it. How do I get that? You know, what do I do? Call us, text us. We'll help you figure that out, no matter what county you are in. Or maybe you don't know, maybe you have a neighbor who only speaks Spanish and they don't know how to fill out the form or where to get information, and they don't have technology and they don't have, you know, access to the computer. Call us. We will walk you through that. So that we're having that, and we're extending our hours this weekend, and we're also extending the hours the day of. But obviously we're doing a lot of these sessions, like, you know, we had the pleasure to work with you, Adriana, and AARP and Univision yesterday, and I can't remember I can't tell you all the other interviews or like Facebook Lives I've had, but also luckily we've had some great work. Earlier this year, we were trying to figure out what are the top of mind issues of Latinos and Latinas in the city of LA. So we did a poll, and I know you've done a poll, and we had some community forums in past September. And then just yesterday and today, we had the opportunity to present this report to not only Mr. Caruso, who's the candidate for mayor, and today was with Congressmember Bass, and let them know what are things are top of mind, right? So those are the type of works that we're doing to get out the vote, and we've texted over 100,000 people, I think just last Friday, in English and Spanish, and saying, you know, don't forget to vote. Here are some resources. So we're not out there tabling like Nosh is, but we're doing a different way of doing it. We have a different way of reaching out the Latino and Latina community, and I'm happy to be here to do it and collaborate with all of you.
Thank you. And you heard it, it's not too late. And these two organizations are here to answer our very last minute questions. Just, you know, it's so important. And, you know, this next question, I mean, goes without saying, but I still want you all to say it and reinforce to us, why are elections important? Why should people vote? I know you can write a dissertation on that, but just
I guess I can start, Quintilia.
Okay.
If that's okay. Yeah, I mean, I would say your vote does matter because, you know, I'm sure Quintilia also gets this a lot, and Adriana, anyone involved in civic education, it's like, well, does my vote even matter? And it does matter. Why it's important to vote is because, you know, like, you know, the impetus of our organization was the women didn't have a right to vote in 1920, right? And you know, decades later, there are certain women that also still were not able to vote for whatever reason. So by, you know, voting and getting out there and talking and showing what you want in your community and where money is spent and what are issues that are the most important to you, it's really the impetus for change. And sometimes it's not like, you know, immediately the day after you see that change, but over long terms, you see these social movements come up and that's where progress is made. So that would be what I would say is why we do this work and why it's so important to vote.
Wow, that's great. Kimpilia?
Yeah, that was great, Dash. So I would say as mothers, as women, as caregivers, we see what our family and our community needs. And so we need to voice that, right? And I would love to be able to make elections way more sexier and way more exciting for people. But then things like the LA City scandal that happened 3 weeks ago just make our work so much harder. So we need to keep our elected officials accountable. We need to let them know that they can't get away with corruption and, you know, inappropriate behavior. So let's make our voices heard and, you know, vote people like them out. And, you know, I know for in this case, we can't vote them out, but, you know, we need to vote for our conscience and vote for the people who cannot vote, right? I'm a naturalized citizen, as I mentioned, and I couldn't vote at one time. So I told my college, you know, roommates, I'm like, this is who you need to vote for because I can't vote. So be mindful that there are people out there that can't vote and don't have, you know, that responsibility and that privilege, and think about your family and what the future of your kids will be, you know, at stake for.
Wow, thank you so much. You couldn't have said it better. And I was leaving this question for last, but you know, it is so important, just what you both have described. And you know, someone is asking about engaging family and friends, and any tips and on the importance of voting. I think this whole session and what we've been talking about is, you know, engaging others and kind of letting others know, especially our family members. I know that, you know, that within my own family members, we, you know, with mom and my sisters, and actually I need to shout out for one of my sisters is joining today, my sister Lupe, who I've been working with
Go Lupe.
20 plus years, and she's never been to any of my events. So that's how important
Lupe, we're happy to have you here.
the propositions. And it's like, hey, well, guess what? Join us. So yes, it's just getting the word out. And any strategies, you know, I'm thinking maybe next year we do a party and get together, bring your ballots, we'll fill out our ballots. And you know, first of all,
I'd show up.
Right, get over comida, you know, or something like
Always.
like do some kind of gathering, and also to register those family members that are not registered. That's a big task that we have. So wrapping it up here, ladies, let me just mention a few resources. Everything is in the chat. Please download, visit the websites that we've shared, and don't forget, make a plan for if you're going to vote in person next Tuesday, November 8th. The polls open at 7 a.m. until 8 p.m. And also, again, want to promote our ARP resources, arp.org/CA votes, or in Spanish, arp.org/CA vota for Spanish information. And we have a lot of local events. Also visit our website for information. And we have, we mentioned earlier, a voter guide. You can text. It's a simple text, tip of your fingers. You can text CA votes to 22777, and you're going to receive ARP's California voting and elections information and our guide. Or in Spanish, you can text CA vota to the same number, 22777, and you're going to get it right there on your phone. That's simple. You know, all organizations here, we're trying to make this simple and get you all the information that you need to make informed decisions when you vote. God, ladies, any final words as we wrap this up?
I have two, if you don't mind me starting, Nash.
Yeah, go ahead.
One is that I think in the poll, the majority of voters in this group here, we're gonna vote by mail, if I remember correctly. So I want to highlight that in 2020, oh, thank you, 54%. So in 2020, in the general election, about 1% of ballots were rejected. And that was 17 million people who voted in 2020. So that means, you know, I don't even know what the math is. It's a lot. If I call it maybe 1.7 million or whatnot of ballots that were rejected, and they were rejected. The majority reason is because they have no signature or the signature did not match. So if you are going to vote by mail, make sure you match your signature. Look what's your driver's license. That's what that you will use. So that was my first thing. My second thing and last thing is obviously if you're here is you're engaged, but there are tons of people who are not engaged. So please call, text, like after you hang up now, call or text, WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, Telegram, whatever, however you reach out to the people. Have you registered? Can I give you a link? Can I drive you? What do you need to go vote? Remember, if you've seen it, the forecast, it's going to rain on Monday and Tuesday morning. So there may be a reason why not to vote. So vote this weekend, right? And so make sure that you reach out to the people who are less likely to vote or don't have resources, because we're very privileged here, and think about the ones who have less privilege.
Thank you. Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah, that's so well said. So yes, I echo those comments, Kithilia, but also I would say just by having this conversation, it just made me think like this is why we do what we do, and this partnership that we have helps to elevate our voices. So I'm all for partnering with other organizations who are doing this important work. We can extend our networks, our voice can be louder. We can help each other with the resources that we have. And, you know, with civic engagement, I just want to say it's not just, you know, in this year and in 2024, it's something that happens all year round, right? So that's something also to remember, stay civically engaged all year round and not just in election years. So that would, I guess, be my tip for everyone here.
Thank you so much. Ladies, you truly inspire me, and I'm so glad that we're able to collaborate together. And just the final word, I do want to give it to our fearless leader, Yolanda. Come back up and
I am just so proud to be a part of this group of young women out there taking the lead, inspiring us to keep voting. And don't forget, even if your candidate doesn't win, you know, you don't give up, because people keep track of where the strong voting areas are. If you live in a community and your community doesn't vote, they know that that community is not engaged and you don't get the same attention. So always vote, because you get more attention for your needs if it's a community of strong voting participation. But thank you so much. I love being with all these young women. It inspires me to keep going too. Thank you.
muchas gracias. Thank you, everyone. Have a good weekend.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining.